Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll set up the story settings, the levels of each floor and datum line. So to do that, come across to your pop-up navigator over here, drop that down, and on top of the word stories, right-click, and then story settings. Okay, now your settings will look a little bit different than mine at the moment, but I'll just take you through what I want you to do here. Firstly, the lowest level, I want you to rename that in the name column to AHD for Australian Height Datum. Also, the second floor, our project doesn't have a second floor, it goes from ground floor, first floor and then roof. So select in the second floor and then click delete story, and that'll delete that for you. If at any time here you press enter, you will close the dialog box and you'll have to reopen it again. Also, because we've deleted a story, as we close the dialog box, it'll ask you to confirm that you wanted to delete that story, otherwise you can cancel. For the moment though, we want to go AHD, ground floor, first floor and roof. Now you'll have different numbers in these values over here. I just want to explain to you how they work. The elevation is the height of each level, and then the height to the next is, if you like, the height of each level from one level to the next level. So the elevation is the actual level of each level or story base. Now, so what happens is if you change a value in the elevation, it will change that level to that value without affecting any of the other levels or any of the other stories. In other words, it will change the height from one to the next to keep the elevations, what is typed in here. Whereas if you change the height to the next, that will, if you like, stretch the whole building to fit those requirements. So if I have a look in here, if I change that value there to 5 meters, and don't press enter because that will close the dialog box. So then if I click in there, that's kept all of these elevations the value that they were before, and it will have adjusted the heights of the elevations, so the heights of the stories, so that the elevations remain the same. If, however, you change the height column, so if I change that to another value and click out, what that did is that then stretched the elevation setting of the next level above to suit the height that you just typed in. In other words, it will move the elevations of the other levels. So to get this all correct to what we want, I suppose the best way of doing it is to start with your bottom elevation and then change the heights of the ones above that without actually changing the elevations. Otherwise you can find yourself chasing your tail in this dialog box a little bit. So if we set Australian height datum to measure 0 meters, nominally it's sea level, so that would be a good value to sort of start off with there. Everything can be referenced from there now at 0. I want the level of the ground floor in between this 9 metre contour and 10 metre contour. So for the moment I'm going to aim for 9.5 metres. Now, so like I said before, I won't type that in there because that will then probably change this bottom elevation mark. I don't do this, I'll just demonstrate that to you. So if I change that to 9.5 metres and then click out, it didn't in this particular case, it did change the height to the next, but it actually gave a height to the next that we didn't want. So what I'm suggesting you do is work from the bottom up, starting with the elevation of the bottom, then changing the height to the next, so that you get the right elevation, and then keep changing height to the next all the way up. So what we want the height of the ground floor to the first floor to be, for the moment, we'll set that at 3,300, and then we'll keep from the first floor up to the roof to be 3,000, and then it doesn't matter what the height is from the roof above it because there is no level above there. So that's the story settings that we want to keep. We want Australian height datum to have an elevation of 0, height to the next 9500, height to the next above that 3300, height to the next above that 3000. And that should give us these elevation settings. When you've done that, we'll just click OK then, and you'll possibly get a dialog box because you deleted that story. It just wants to make sure you do want to delete that story because I think it's probably, you can't undo that if you do. So we do want to delete level 2, so I'm going to click delete anyway. Okay, now that's taken you to the first floor because that's the floor that I just was clicked into when I pressed OK. So if you want to go back to level 0 or ground floor, the pop-up navigator and double click on ground floor, and that brings ground floor open here again. Now I think I got a copy of a lot of this down on AHD as well, so that we can do our site information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that image and I'll edit, copy it to the clipboard. So edit, copy, and then I'm going to use the drop down and go to AHD, so double click on AHD, and then I'm going to go edit, paste. And it'll bring up a dialog box here. Make sure you've got original location, so it's right on top of the same position as the other one, and click paste. So we've now got a copy of that there as well. Okay, now that should be alright. We'll just go back again to ground floor again, so double click on ground floor. And the other thing that I want a copy of is this property boundary, so that fill that we put in there. So if we click it until we get that fill, I'll edit, copy that to the clipboard, and then drop down here and we'll go to AHD. So we're on AHD here, and I also want a copy of that, so edit, paste that. And we're going to paste that. I was expecting it would show it as come up with that same dialog box there before, but it didn't seem to this time. It obviously appears to be in the right position now. Okay, so we're now on AHD, so we can start laying out other things. But and we'll start doing all of our topography work, the shape of the land, on AHD, because we'll measure all of our heights from AHD upwards in line with these contour dimensions. So we'll probably stop the video there so we can do a save at that point.